And welcome into the Mizzou Central Postgame Show right here on STL Sports Central. My name is Chris Pelican, joined by Tiger Hall of Famer Kareem Rush. Tigers, whew,
yes,
exhale. 88-87 overtime win in Columbia against Oklahoma. Mark Mitchell beats the buzzer to win it. Trent Pierce beats the buzzer in regulation to force overtime. A game that had its share of flaws, Kareem, but we talk about this in football. We talk about it in basketball. Winning is not easy. It is not easy to win games at this level. So when you get one, you take it. You don't ask too many questions. You certainly break down the film and figure out what worked, what did not. But at the end of the day, the Tigers got to win today. One they desperately needed after the loss to Georgia earlier this week. And so, again, we've got a lot of time here to chop things up and talk about what went well, what did not go well today. But at the end of the day, they got the win, and that's why you play this game.
Exactly. You said coming off the Georgia game, something that I saw the bubble talk, from Lenardi, so I felt that we lost this one. That might have been a wrap for us, for us as far as tournament. But like you said, it wasn't pretty, but it is hard to win in the SEC. Oklahoma coming off a 5-game losing streak. They were hungry for a win, so it was a back and forth battle. I think it was like 20-something lead changes in the second half. And, lucky for us, we had Pierce and Mark hit some big shots.
I generally don't feel bad for the opponent, but watching Porter Mosier on the sideline, Porter Mosier's a guy coached at St. Louis University for a long time, Loyola, obviously, by all accounts, just a really, really good guy. And I mean, that one, you're sitting there going, how do you got to sit there and say, how are we not cursed? I mean, again, Mizzou, it's tough to say this, but I mean, they needed everything in the basketball gods, playbook to get them a win against a team that is probably one of the lower end teams in the SEC at this point in time. But by the same token, again, I mean, it is really, really tough. I think the question that I want to ask before we start breaking this thing down, Kareem, is, again, people are going to say, is this the one that's can kind of, push them into better things for the rest of the stretch? I feel like we asked that question, and it's like you see it a lot in baseball, and then you hear the saying, momentum's only as good as tomorrow's starting pitcher type thing. And, I'm curious if you think that something like this, because you've been in these situations, is this the kind of win that can maybe sort of correct some of the ills we've seen over the last few weeks with this team?
No, I don't think it's a statement win. I think we're rounded into form. Obviously with T.O. having his first start tonight, he played an amazing game, career high game. So kind of finding where Ant Rob's going to fit in this mix. I'm sure he's trying to figure out, like, coming off the bench and what that's going to look like. But my thought process, like we were texting, I think Dennis is looking for some offensive punch on the second unit. So that could be my thought process there. Our first unit did well. Like I said, I'm impressed with what Stone is doing. He's really kind of been now solidifying himself as our second offensive threat. So I think, like I said, a win is a win, but not by any means, but just a statement win where we should be riding high. Like, we squeaked this one out. We should have played better. If it wasn't for a couple big, huge shots, that would have been a loss. So there's certainly things to improve. Like you mentioned, the defense is still an issue for us, standing in front of guards, going to a zone, getting long rebounds, getting easy shots, easy looks. I think sometimes we just got to buckle down and man and go at it that way, because, long rebounds and stuff like that are happening to us all the time. So, again, a win is a win. Let's move on and get ready for the next one.
He is Tiger Hall of Famer Kareem Rush. My name is Chris Pelican. This is the Mizzou Central Postgame Show right here on STL Sports Central. And folks, as always, we invite you to jump into the comments section. It's been pretty busy so far today. A lot of thoughts after this one. So while you're in there leaving a comment for us to chew on, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button and do us a solid here at STL Sports Central. Kareem, you mentioned Anthony Robinson. And again, I mean, there's a lot of good stuff to talk about in this game, at least, the heroics of the team. Anthony Robinson in another tough spot, plays 17 minutes today, not real effective in the 17 he was playing. We went back and forth. You mentioned maybe Gates looking for a spark on the second end. And my point to you, and I'd love your thoughts on it for all of the folks in viewer land today. My concern is that this team, its ceiling is significantly lower with Anthony Robinson not playing a lot of minutes. Anthony Robinson is the kind of guy who goes out there and can make his impact felt, even if he's not scoring. We obviously would like to see him better, closer to that 10 to 12 per game that he's used to getting. But he's a stat sheet guy, and he gets a lot of rebounds and a lot of assists, and he steals. And he's not just a steal guy. He's a good defender too. I mean, he is a guy who prevents, penetration and that sort of thing. And so, I just worry. And again, I know I've picked on T.O. Barrett a lot this year, and they obviously don't win this game today without T.O. Barrett's heroics. Having said that, again, I think that if we're going to be honest about what we saw from T.O. Barrett today was a great offensive day, not a good defensive day. And I think that's what you might see from T.O. Barrett a lot moving forward. And I feel like that is a problem for this team because they have to play better team defense than they did today. OU shot over 50% from three today. Their looks were open. They got to the basket at will. This was not the kind of defensive effort that is going to result in wins very often.
I agree. I mean, like you said, we should hang our hats on our defensive, capabilities, and not having N. Rob out there is definitely a detriment from that regard. But I think it could be two things. I think Dennis could be lighting a fire in his ass by net starting him and kind of getting him going that way. But again, the Ant Rob has not been what we've hoped up to this point. And again, I think it's all going to depend on how he responds to to the demotion. But again, if we don't have that second punch, it's not really about who starts. It's about we want him out there in the crunch time, closing out games. We need those. I believe our best lineup could be, and Rob, T.O., Stone, Mark, and Pierce at some point. I think that's a very potent offensive lineup. So Dennis is still trying to find his way. I think, like I said, this is really about lighting a fire under Ant Rob to kind of get him going and motivated. But it kind of remains to be seen how he's going to respond to it.
Well, and you mentioned Trent Pierce's name too, and obviously he hits a massive shot in this game to force overtime. Trent Pierce played 20 minutes today.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Dennis looking for his rotation. We've talked about rotation since the first game of the season. You see guys, again, I mean, let's talk about who got minutes today. Trent Burns got minutes. Luke Northweather got minutes. Honor Boateng got minutes. Nick Randall got minutes. Sebastian Mack got minutes. And again, I know he prides himself, Dennis does, on the deep bench and trying to, but again, I mean, I'm going to keep coming back to this and say Trent Pierce is a guy who, when he came back, it lit a fire under this team. It injected energy into this team.
Yep. And
he is such a versatile weapon, and he defends pretty well. And here you are playing him 20 minutes in this game. And I feel bad that we are 7 minutes into a post-game show that would result that was won on an overtime buzzer beater by Mark Mitchell from 3-point range. And I'm talking about the rotation here, but it is a deal for me where I still think this team is playing far below their talent capabilities. And I think part of that is the fact that Dennis Gates is trying to shoehorn a philosophy into a team that is not ready for that. I think the guys I just mentioned, if they're going to see minutes this year, it's got to be mop up one way or the other. I think you need to see what you have out of your best 7 or 8, and you need to go with that and see if this team really does have a shot. Because if Joe Lunardi says you're a second 4 out at this point in time, you are knocking on the tournament's door. Despite the terrible losses to Kansas and Illinois, you are knocking on the tournament door. And I mean, there is no more room for margin for error. There are no more gimmies on the schedule. So they better put their best foot forward, because again, you waste 20 plus minutes on guys who have not proven that they deserve minutes in these games. And I don't really know what to do with this, because again, I just think that we know who has shown what they can do on this team. And I think we need to find cohesion with those guys and not intermix people who are going to play for 6 minutes a game and, turn the ball over twice and do nothing else. So again, I'm just in a little bit of a lost spot with Coach Gates at this point in time, because I feel like it's very evident who should be out there all of the time.
Coach Gates is a great guy, so not guys getting any minutes, so those are just like, I think those 4 or 6 minutes are just fluff minutes to get guys some time. Those guys are transfers, so let me give them a little action. Matt got out there and got a couple shots up. But if I'm looking at the overall stat list, we had 7 guys play 15 minutes plus. I think that's kind of where we are. And as far as what Pierce brings, I think it's just kind of the spacing of the floor. I mean, not many other guys have been able to pull up and hit that game. I mean, that overtime 3. It would have been probably him and Cruz and Stone. So the fact that he can actually do that gives us the options out there that I think we needed to spread the floor. And in today's game was kind of ran by Mark, T.O., and Stone. So it wasn't much that Trent needed to do besides be a threat out there and use his length. Missed a couple bunnies that we need to clean up. But other than that, I like, what he brings to the table, and he's still kind of rounding to the form. So I think our top 7 is kind of where it is right now. And I think those fluff minutes that Dennis put those guys out there, just, Dennis is a good guy, get some guys a little run, and kind of seeing maybe Sheldon Mack might get something going and spark it somewhere. But if not, then get him off the floor.
My question to you, let's go back to Anthony Robinson, because we sort of made a bigger discussion about Anthony Robinson. Let's talk about him specifically. Have you in your career, Kareem, you played a long time at every level you could possibly play at. I know you've probably had a few spells where it wasn't happening for you. If in your opinion, which again, I'm not saying you're Anthony Robinson, would you rather play your way through those, or do you think that there's value in watching for a while and maybe soaking some things in and thinking about things? Or, because again, I was telling you before, I think he needs to just play his way through this, because again, this team cannot be what we think it can be without a very, very high level Anthony Robinson.
I think, that's on coach to kind of figure that part out. As a player, you never want to be demoted, and you're never going to take it lightly. You're never going to be cool with it. So either you're going to respond to it and come back and play better. But the thing about Ant Rob, he impacts the game so much more than just his shooting. He can come out and be a defensive, kingpin for us to kind of get that stuff going. So it all depends on how Dennis is using him and where Ant Rob wants to make himself known. Now, if you're struggling offensively, go out there and get 3 or 4 steals. Go out there and make deflection. That'll show Dennis that you're kind of engaged. But I think part of it, he was hoping to take that next jump offensively to be, an all-SEC player, and it hasn't happened. So probably his confidence is not where it needs to be right now. But all that takes is a couple good games. Like I said, maybe the demotion, a lot of fire in his ass. He'll come back and play a little bit better. But he didn't play well tonight. So we're gonna need more out of him.
He is Kareem Rush. I'm Chris Pelican. This is the Mizzou Central Postgame Show right here on STL Sports Central. And the Mizzou Central Postgame Show is brought to you in part by the Legal Buddy app. Life happens fast. 1 minute you're driving home, the next flashing lights in the rear view. When trouble knocks, answer with confidence. With the Legal Buddy app, you can connect to a local attorney in seconds, whether it's a DWI, car accident, criminal charge, or traffic ticket. Download the Legal Buddy app today at legalbuddyapp.com. Register and use code LEGAL to enter for a chance to win a $250 Amazon gift card, always on your side. That is the Legal Buddy app. Tigers win today by a final of 88-87 against Oklahoma in overtime at Mizzou Arena. Mark Mitchell, a three-pointer to walk things off.
Who would have thought?
And, Kareem, again, hey, look, it was obvious that, they were set up for a defensive stop there. Didn't love the fact that Pack got straight to the basket and made a pretty easy shot with 5 seconds to go. But again, what do you think? Do you think Mark Mitchell, as soon as he caught that inbound pass, says, "I'm shooting this thing. This is happening"?
Yeah. I think he was going. Mark gets downhill, so I think he was going to do what he do. Got caught in traffic and pulled up. So, but what I know is a lot. Is this game. Mark is kind of developing that 8 to 10 range turnaround, mid range guy that I've been so hoping for so long, and it looks so good too. Because obviously I'm a lefty, so I always like to see lefties do their thing. But Mark, big shot. It's definitely unexpected from him, but he's our leader, and he stepped up big tonight.
So obviously Trent Pierce and Mark Mitchell hit gigantic 3-point shots to tie, send this game to overtime and then win it in overtime. But on the day today, Tigers a mere 6 of 21 from 3-point range. This has been a bit of a trend lately. They are not shooting the ball from the outside very well. How concerned are you about what you're seeing from this team beyond the arc?
I think we have our threats. Cruz is going through his little spell. Like I said, we have Pierce and we have Stone. So I'm confident kind of where we are now. From the arc. Ebbs and flows of 3-point shooting happens all the time. So guys can get hot one game and not the next. But as long as the guys are shooting to keep the defense honest, it's going to open up things for everybody else. That's allowing TL to get to the downhill, get into his drives, allowing Mark to have a little more space to drive and kick and do his thing. So I'm happy where we are. Stone has been a godsend. Getting downhill and being an offensive threat. So where we are now on the perimeter, I'm pretty solid with it.
Well, let me ask you about Jacob Cruz, okay? Because, we mentioned before that Anthony Robinson's the kind of guy who affects the game regardless of whether he's scoring or not. Jacob Cruz is the kind of guy who does not really affect the game in any positive way if he is not hitting 3-pointers. That is what he does. He does it very well. He was 2 of 5 from 3 today, so that's great. But he had 6 points in 22 minutes. He has not been what early in the season, he was a 50% 3-point shooter. What do you do with a guy like him, Kareem, where, is this the guy who, you need to keep him out there to keep shooting, to try to work his way out of his funk? Because again, this is my concern with T.O. Barrett. It's my concern with Jacob Cruz, that they are minus defenders on a team that needs to play good defense to win games. They do offer great positives on the offensive side of the ball in different areas. But with Jacob Cruz, who did play 22, he didn't play 32 today, 22 minutes, 6 points, and again, it's one of these things that Jacob Cruz's value has got to be threes and bunches, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't think we need them as much as we did early in the year when those guys are out. So when we just had Mark and him, he had a lot more looks, a lot more plays that were called his way, and he was hunting shots. So once you get in the groove, you hit a couple good games, boom, boom. Now you're shooting, leading the country in 3-point shots. But now he's coming a little bit back down to earth. And we got to find, ways to kind of, get him more looks. But again, tonight wasn't really predicated on his offense. You go out there and be a threat. That's enough for us. And let the guys kind of take charge. And again, tonight's game was all about Stone, T.O., and Mark. And Cruz being out there allowed those guys to be able to operate.
This is the Mizzou Central Postgame Show right here on STL Sports Central. He's Kareem Rush. I'm Chris Pelican. As folks, we always invite you to jump in to the comment section here on YouTube. And our friend Samuel Howe jumps in and he says this, and Kareem, I think he's got this summed up pretty well. Be excited today, kids, but expect a heck of a hard practice, whether they practice tomorrow or Monday. I mean, this is exactly what this is going to be, right? I can't imagine Dennis is overly pleased with what happened today. When you win, you've got to be happy, right? But you also have to know that there was a lot they didn't do real well today.
Like, as a coach, you're always looking for your guys to play better. So you're going to find ways for improvements, regardless of how well you play. They could have beat this team by 40, and Dennis going to find a way to kind of, try to make improvements. So, again, be excited about it. Congratulate the guys on knocking down big shots. But, again, still working on improvements and things that, becoming a hamper for us. And, again, figure out, what the second unit is going to look like for us. I think that's kind of the biggest question mark moving forward. It's like, what is this group going to be? Where's the offensive punch coming from? Is it going to be Ant Rob? Was that a temporary thing out of the starting lineup? That's these things that Dennis needs to figure out as we kind of get into the meat of the season, in SEC tournament time. Season, so we can kind of figure out what we're doing.
How concerned are you about ball security with this group? 12 turnovers again today. I mean, they've been over 10 for pretty much the last month of the season. And again, we sit here and we talk about these games seem to come down to a couple of late possessions, right? And so when you're giving the other team 12 chances, I just feel like we're having, there's too many, right? And obviously one late in the game and in overtime, they have a bad turnover. How concerned are you about that, A, and B, what are the kind of things this team can do to rectify that situation?
I mean, we don't really have pure point guards. We have kind of scoring first point guards. So a lot of these guys are kind of getting downhill and trying to get to the basket. So a lot of those turnovers happen when they kind of, driving into, traffic. And a lot of turnovers also, we got Mark, who's big, who drives and kicks. So a lot of that stuff is without having a pure point guard. But I'm not too upset about it. 12 is fine. We want to be there under 10, but I don't think it was a big issue tonight.
Fair enough. And again, we go back to this. We've talked about this a lot. Jaden Stone handling the ball more. And again, he's the same way. He's certainly not going to be your pure point guard, it just feels it's an interesting concept, Kareem, because we sit here and we talk about the way Dennis Gates wants to build a roster, positionless basketball, right? And so you don't always find big guys who can handle the ball really, really well, right? And generally speaking, the Nick Honors of the world who are really, really solid pass first guys, a lot of times point guard wise, they're 5'10", and it doesn't work well in switch basketball. I guess my question to you is do you think they should look to alternatives in terms of how they bring the ball up? Do you think they should see, to try to create different sort of matchups, have Trent Pierce bring it up every once in a while? Mark's obviously a guy who's very comfortable with the ball in his hands, not in a pure point guard role, but, there's so many of these guys, LeBron James has redefined what a point guard is, in the NBA as a 6'9" guy, so it's one of those things that I'm curious if you think that maybe they should try different things to get into their offense a little bit differently than what they do now.
I mean, if those guys have the skill set, which Trent and Mark does, I don't mind biggest, rebounding and starting the pace. That gets us out and speeds us up a little bit, get some fast break points. But I think, relying on traditional sets, letting guys T.O. and Rob get us into some forms and some offense, I think it's always good. But if those guys have the ability to kind of push the ball, by all means, push out, let the guards get into the running lanes, and let's get some up-tempo, fast break type looks that we don't get very often.
That's what I was going to ask you too. Do you think that Dennis should tell this team, again, and I would buy the fact that they're playing 11 guys every game if they were an up-tempo team. They're just not, and honestly, I kind of don't know why they're not. It feels like everybody on this team runs fine, right? Yeah. I mean, I know Jacob Cruz is not an elite athlete. I mean, if you throw Trent Burns out there, he obviously can't get up the floor up and back very quickly. But I mean, the rest of this team, these guys all move really, really, really well. And so I'm wondering because, and again, like, I get it. Mark Mitchell is fantastic off the dribble. T.O. Barrett is sort of redefining himself, or at least, he's asserting himself more than he ever has as somebody who gets to the basket the way he does. So clearly they have guys who get to the basket well. Having said that, again, it feels to me like you have the tools to run. I don't know why you wouldn't. What are your thoughts?
I think part of the problem in our pace is that we always play in zone. I think zone slows you down pace-wise. Because if you're playing man, you might get some steals. The tempo is just different playing man. So I think part of our slow pace is being that we do a lot of matchup zone. We don't get a lot of deflections. We're not super active in it. We just kind of long and lanky and give up easy looks within the zone. But it does kind of throw people, into a flux every now and again. It does work, but it does allow for open looks. When I play, I couldn't wait for a zone. I know I'm gonna get an open three somewhere along the line, or get a cut to the middle and get a like mid range free throw line jump shot, which a lot of
find that soft spot, right?
Yeah. So
find that soft spot.
You got a couple of good players that understand you can shoot a little bit, you can destroy it zone. So I wish we play a little bit more, but I understand, switching everything, the mentality behind it. We have length, but I think that also affects, kind of our pace.
Tigers win 88-87 in overtime against Oklahoma. They improved to 14-6 on the year, 4-3 in SEC play. This is the Mizzou Central Postgame Show, and it is brought to you by our business banking partners at Home Bank. From business lending to everyday banking, Home Bank has been with us since day one as a trusted partner. Business is not just about numbers, it is about relationships, and with Home Bank, those relationships make all the difference. Home Bank is the team behind our team at STL Sports Central. Visit myhomebank.bank or call 855-577-2001. Home Bank, member FDIC, more than a bank. They are your business partner. And Kareem, they obviously bring us the money moment of the game. And I guess this is the easiest question you will be asked all week. Your idea of what the money moment of the game is. I think I've got a pretty good thought.
Yeah, we got to go with Pierce. Getting us into the overtime.
All right.
We give a 1B.
1A and 1B to Mitchell.
Yeah, knocking it down. So shout out to those boys.
It's funny, too, because, again, they did not shoot threes very well today. They were not a good three-point shooting team today, and they hit two massive threes that prolong the game and then win the game. So, this is just basketball, right? It is the craziness of this game and what makes it really, really, really fun. Folks, as always, we invite you to jump into our conversation into the YouTube chat while you're down there. Please hit the like and subscribe button. And, somebody's we got an Illini fan invading right now asking us, what about the Illini? Illini go and win at Purdue today. I mean, so, anytime you lose by 40, it's not a good loss. But anyone who watches Illinois play knows that, I mean, they are, if you're saying that, if you tell me tomorrow they're a Final Four team, then that doesn't surprise me at all. Illinois is really, really good. I don't know if they're 40 points better than Tigers, but they're very, very good.
Very good team. And their freshman had a good game. Would he have 30 something?
I think he might have had 40.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So actually, I played with him in the gym like before his freshman year. I was like, this kid is good.
I was going to say the KC kid, and I don't know how he slipped through our fingers, but yeah, he is. He's lighting it up. That is a good outfit that Brad Underwood is running right there. This is the Mizzou Central Postgame Show right here on STL Sports Central. He is Kareem Rush. I'm Chris Pelican. Tigers again win 88-87 in overtime against Oklahoma. Kareem, anything else stand out to you today? The one thing I thought I made a bunch of notes about is Shawn Phillips, and Shawn Phillips it's becoming pretty clear that he's more like Josh Gray than we thought. Just in terms of maybe a little bit more limited offensive upside. I think Shawn Phillips has better offensive tools than Josh Gray did last year. But boy, does he find himself in some bad situations. And, today you saw Porter Mosier use a challenge to request a review on a potential flagrant, and then they end up getting the flagrant. Is it safe to say the book is out on Shawn Phillips and sort of the wild arms down low, and that teams now with these new and different flagrant one rules are going to sit there and try to get their heads around his arms and hands to get a couple of quick free throws?
Absolutely. If one team does it, somebody's going to copy it. So he got to be on the lookout for that. And Shawn is super athletic, but what I've seen up to this point in the season, that he's going to be a 6 and 7 or 8 guy, which is what we need from him, being active, being a lob threat. Has some decent post moves, keeps the ball, drops the ball too low sometimes and not just dunk. But all in all, he's an active guy and somebody that's, good out there, for his size. But if we can get 6 and 8 from him every night, that's kind of where we need to be.
Yeah, he has got to be a deterrent in the middle, which today, unfortunately, it seemed like OU, when they got to the basket, it was easier than it should have been. But again, the Tigers do win this thing 88-87 in overtime. They are now on the road for 3 of the next 4. And Kareem, again, I mean, like, we sit there and you talked about at the beginning of the SEC schedule, sort of breaking it up into 6-game stretches throughout. And, they are through the first 6 and, 4-3 now as they start their second 6. They got to go play at Alabama. And, Alabama is a really good team, first and foremost. And now apparently Charles Bediako, after not being there for 3 years and is now, 36 years old, is coming back to play for them. So he was good 3 years ago. I bet he's even better now. If you're Dennis Gates, like this is probably one of these games where the Tigers are going to walk into that place as about 10-point underdogs. I'm curious your thoughts on, do you think Dennis just says, hey, at this point in time, house money, let's just see what happens? Or, what do you think he's saying before they go to Alabama?
Let's go get a road win. I just read about the 37-year-old guy who's coming back and playing, so I'm curious to see how
you remember him? I mean, he was a really good player on those teams that were Final Four teams.
Yeah, now in G League and 2 years in the G League and development, he's probably going to be a beast on over here. But we'll see. We got bigs though. We probably will be an underdog for sure. This is where your stars need to step up and play big. So a big game out of Mark and Stone and T.O. Those guys are probably going to be needed. We're going to need one of those outlier games to win on the road, and we'll see what happens.
I think the real question, Kareem, is have you explored your final year of eligibility?
I tried. I'm gonna call Laird and say and turn in my papers, be like, hey, I still could do it. Give me 15, but I need about $2.5 million though, Laird.
2.5. That's the number. That's the
2.5.
NIL community, get after this. We just need an attorney we need an attorney to file a hardship for Kareem, and then we just need $2.5 million. That's it. Easy enough. And then the best 3-point shooter in the history of the program is right back doing it again for us. I like it. I'm starting it right here.
There you go.
Starting right here. Yeah. So before we start wrapping things up, Kareem, I'm just curious your thoughts on where this team sits, because again, every time we do one of these shows, we sit here and we want to talk about, okay, well, now we're here, and now this is in front of them and this is behind them. And again, if you listen to me talk, which most people probably don't, they're here for you, obviously. But I mean, I don't know what this team is. I don't have any faith that they'll win very many more games. It wouldn't stun me if they do pull out 5 or 6 more wins in conference play. I just don't know what to think of this team because, again, we don't see anything that resembles consistency with how they play day in and day out. And it's hard for me to put a finger on whether or not this team legitimately is on the cusp of the tournament, because I watched them play today and I go, I just don't know that this is a tournament team. They don't defend well enough to play in the tournament. They're not shooting well enough to be in the tournament. They don't handle the ball, too many turnovers. So they're just doing a lot of things wrong in my mind. But again, it's all right there in front of them.
It's all it takes is a quick 3 to 4 game win streak. And now we're solidly in the tournament. But I think we're kind of exactly where we are. We're kind of a bubble team right now who had a terrible non-conference schedule. There were a bunch of fluffs, so we haven't played anybody. We had those blowouts. So, like I said before, conference season started, we thought this was a wrap, But they've been able to rebound. They've been able to get full strength. We should have won the Georgia game. We probably been in a different conversation right now if we did that. But 7 games in, we're at full strength. Let's see what these next 3 or 4 games look like on the road. If we can go out there and get 2 or 3 of those, now we're in a different spot. But if we go and lose all 3. Now we're going to kind of be in the bottom of the SEC. So these next 3 games are very pivotal.
Well, I know a lot of our viewers, Kareem, right now are stuck inside because the weather is crappy outside and they've got nowhere to go today or tomorrow. So more than likely they watch a little Mizzou basketball today. We'll probably watch a little NFL football tomorrow. DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL, and it makes every moment feel bigger. So I know you said you're not a big bettor. Neither am I, Kareem, but we got the AFC and NFC championship games tomorrow. Give me your thoughts on who you think's going to win or who's heading to the Super Bowl. We've got Patriots and Broncos in the AFC, and we've got Rams and Seahawks in the NFC. Where are you laying any fake money on this thing?
I'm going with the Broncos. The Broncos, they're going to lose because they lost Bo Nix. So
they lost Bo Nix.
And then, I'm going to be a homer and go for Josh to win.
I know. It's you and I agree.
St. Louis folk.
We agree on many things in the world, Kareem, and that is just one that you and I will not agree on there. I will tell you, I'm actually if I'm laying my money on this thing, I like the Broncos as a 3.5 point home underdog, even though Nix is out. And there's a bunch of props on Jarrett Stidham, the guy who's going to replace him. I remember Jarrett Stidham way back in the day as like one of the top 5 high school quarterbacks in the country, went to Baylor. He's a Texas kid and then ends up over at Auburn for a little bit. The skills are there. He's worked with Sean Payton for a lot of years. This could be his coming out party. So I think I'm going to go ahead and I would take a little parlay action on the home dogs at +3.5. And I'm going to go ahead and say Jarrett Stidham at -118 for over 200 yards passing in this thing. I think he might surprise some folks. So maybe this is against the Patriots. This is sort of the Tom Brady story of the guy coming out of nowhere and running the table and winning the Super Bowl as a rookie. And even though Stidham's not a rookie, but just getting his first shot. So that's the Cinderella thing that I've got in my mind right now for the Denver Broncos tomorrow. And folks, DraftKings does have your back with early exit protection. So if the player in your eligible NFL prop, like Bo Nix, goes down at any point in the first half, you will still get paid in cash. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code STL Sports. That's code STL Sports to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus. Physically present in Missouri. Eligibility restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Additional terms at dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer.
This is the Mizzou Central Postgame Show right here on STL Sports Central. Tigers win a thriller today in Columbia. It's been a little doom and gloom on my end. I feel bad about that. But again, you celebrate your wins. Tigers win on a Mark Mitchell walk-off buzzer beater in overtime, 88-87, your final score over Oklahoma. They improved to 14-6 on the season, 4-3 in the SEC. Next up is a Tuesday tilt down in Tuscaloosa against Nate Oates, Charles Bediako, the geriatric center, and the rest of the Alabama Crimson Tide in that one. I believe they're 18th ranked in the country right now. So we got that coming up. Kareem, before we start wrapping things up for this, want to chat with you about your business endeavors outside of our fine little program here. Give us the latest on what do we got? So I didn't bring mine today because I wasn't, because I thought we're in the middle. I've got the old stuff. I need some.
I got you a new bottle coming. So brand new, been working for the last probably 6 weeks on a brand new blend for the bourbon. The first one sold out, did really well. So shout out to everyone who got a bottle and supported the brand. But now we stepped it up. So now we got flavor profiles to each state. Missouri's going to have a very nice molasses base. Kansas is going to have a sunflower honey base. I got Maryland that's going to start with a rye, because rye whiskey was birthed out of in the Maryland area. And then for the California region, I have a citrus flavor profile that's going to be represented by UCLA and USC. So those launched the 1st of February. Very excited about it. Got great partners in Cali Distillery, based out of California, but bottles and get all their juice in Kentucky as well. So we got the Kentucky hug. So we're really making it, down there. So check out the brand new site that launches next week, unibrandsandspirits.com. Get a chance to check out all the cool stuff we got. We got custom memorabilia, glassware, legendary player collections, a lot of fun stuff tied to the brand. That's much bigger than we did last time. So I'm excited about it.
We will have more to come on that. So again, unispiritsandbrands.com. Go there and check out some of the good stuff that is on the way in the near future. In the near past, the Missouri Tigers with a great win today over Oklahoma. Again, some kinks to iron out, but again, I'm going to go ahead and lay my head on my pillow tonight, happy that the Tigers are 4-3 in SEC play with an 88-87 win over Oklahoma. Next up, again, a Tuesday matchup in Tuscaloosa. Kareem, any final thoughts from a big day with it for the Tigers?
Just stay safe, stay indoors, stay warm, and go Mizzou.
I like it. All right, he is Kareem Rush, the Mizzou Hall of Famer. I'm Chris Pelican. This has been the Mizzou Central Postgame Show right here on STL Sports Central. Folks, Tigers win again, 88-87. Next up, Alabama, and we'll see you on Tuesday.